out. So we're going to talk about the hours, and we're going to look at time in the New Testament. Jesus said this, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight?" Now we find in the New Testament, all of a sudden, time is seen in terms of hours. In the Old Testament, it was seen in terms of the positions of the sun. And so there's a difference, as you've noted. We're going to begin with the Hour of Incense. And the Hour of Incense actually goes back in time into the Old Testament. And there, the Lord commanded Moses to tell Aaron that he was to burn fragrant incense on the altar every morning when he tends the lamps. This was called the morning hour of incense at 6 a.m. And we can look then and see, 1,500 years later, and in the New Testament, this is still happening. They're still obeying the command. It says, when the time came for the burning of incense, all the assembled worshipers were praying outside. So as the priest burned the incense at this time, prayer was taking place. He was praying and the people were praying outside. This was a practice that had been commanded by the Lord. But also, there's something important about this time. It was a time of divine meeting. It was a time when the Lord said, "I will meet with you and I will speak with you." So he says this, "There I will meet with you and speak to you. There I will also meet with the Israelites." And at that time, it said this in Exodus 29, 38 and 39. "This is what you are to offer on the altar regularly each day, 2 lambs, a year old." So they could only come into that place of meeting through the sacrifice of a lamb. And as you're going to see in these hours, the thread of the sacrifice of Christ, the message of his sacrifice, weaves through the hours, as well as we're going to see later the resurrection, through these hours of prayer and through the watches of prayer. And so there's 2 important symbols, specifically in this first hour of incense. And of course, the first symbol is incense. What does incense represent, biblically speaking? Intercession, prayer. And as you think of incense, there's nothing that it does not penetrate. When incense is lit in a room, it gets right into the cracks. What does that tell you about your prayer? There's nothing that your prayers can't penetrate. Your prayers are powerful as you come before the Lord with a broken and a contrite heart. And as I think about incense, I think about God. Why did he command incense to be burned? It says that we were made in his likeness and image. And we have physical smell. I believe God has spiritual smell. And I believe as we pray with a broken and a contrite heart, that our prayers go up in a fragrance that is more beautiful for God than that of a rose, the fragrance of a rose in the morning. I think he's just there. He's waiting in the morning, waiting for you to wake up. And he's just waiting for those prayers. Just as he walked in the garden back then with Adam and Eve, and there was that communion. You see, your prayers now are his garden. He yearns for those times. Yet it says something about incense in Revelation. It says this, not only are they the prayers of the saints, but in Revelation 8, verse 3 and 4, it says, there was an angel that had a golden censer and came and stood at the altar, and he was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. And so this angel was given incense to add to the prayers of the saints. Now my question is, what happened? Aren't our prayers enough? Why does more incense needed to be added? Obviously there was lacking yet. And so the Lord is calling on us. And the altars of our hearts, he wants them to burn with this fragrant incense of prayer. He wants those bowls to be filled. Now the encouraging note is, just as Jesus took the loaves and the fish, the little that was there, and multiplied them, the Lord will take our prayers as we come in obedience, and he will multiply them. He will add to them. And that's the good news about this passage. But there's another symbol in this first hour of incense, and that is the breastpiece that had the 12 precious stones. Now, what did those 12 precious stones represent? What do you think? Anyone? What did they represent? 12 tribes, right. The 12 tribes, the people of Israel. Great. Okay. Now, why were they precious stones? I believe this. In Exodus 19:4-6, it says this. The Lord, speaking to Moses, said, "Now if you obey me fully," speaking about the people, "and keep my covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possession." You are the Lord's treasured possession. You are precious to him. And just as you would have looked at your children, and maybe still do if they're young enough, still sleeping in the morning before you'd wake them up for school, and you saw them as a treasured possession, the most beautiful and precious thing to you. You weren't looking at their faults. And as the Lord looks on us in the morning, waiting for us to awaken and to have communion with him, he sees us as his treasured possession. You are precious. Can you say that right now? I am his treasured possession. Wow. Say that again. Now, when you wake up tomorrow morning, I want you to say that. Say it to him. Lord, I am your treasured possession. You know, we need to have our inner eyes illumined and awakened to this. And Paul even talked about it, as we said yesterday in Ephesians 2, right? Or in Ephesians 1, sorry. That our inner eyes would be illumined so that we would know what? The hope of his calling. The riches of his inheritance in the saints. That's you. You are his treasured possession. But that also means that not just me. You know, as that high priest went in with the breastplate and the treasures of those 12 stones on his chest, he was interceding for the people and for the other tribes. Now, do you think that high priest ever had a conflict with some of those people? Some of those leaders? Or was everything always smooth? Not likely. Is everything always smooth in your family? Is everything always smooth in your church? No. And so, but he had to go in with that breastpiece on, with the 12 precious stones, and pray for them as God's treasured possession. May the Lord illumine our eyes to see each other as we truly are. Jesus paid a high price, the greatest ransom, because we are God's treasured possession. And as we pray for each other, we need to remember that.